All right, welcome to Artist Spotlight 2020. I have Courtney and Aryn Kern here with us from Longshadow Woodworks for Millstream Arts Festival and also in collaboration with the St. Cloud Downtown Art Crawl. I know that Millstream, they're a festival favorite for us, for me too. I really enjoy having you all at the festival. Your energy and your work is just so welcomed at the festival. So I'm really excited that we can share our viewers with what you do and your background a little bit. So could you start with sharing a little bit about you?
Sure thing. Well, Courtney and I met in 1995. I grew up in central Minnesota here and went to school up in Ely. Courtney grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we lived across the hallway from each other. We've basically been together ever since. We went to school on and off, trying to find ourselves, figure out who we were together. Really, we grew up together.
We did.
Um, Ended up in Duluth, where I went to UMD and got my education degree, did some student teaching, substitute teaching, and ended up joining Courtney in the woodworking business. He had always had an interest, and I should just let you talk about yourself.
Yeah, I've always kind of worked in the after school and everything. I worked in the wood industry in various forms, and I guess both of us are also been pretty independent kind of type people, and independent minded, and wanted kind of didn't want to. We wanted a different path out of life, and so this is kind of what we've forged.
We always wanted to find something that we could do together. And yeah. Courtney had always worked with wood, and I had taken just about every pottery class I could ever take in high school and in college, and I loved art. And so we kind of melded my artistic side with his knowledge of wood, and well, we've been doing it full time since 2006.
Yeah.
We moved to the Little Falls area about a little over 10 years ago. So now we have a small farm, do our woodworking, and sell online mainly now, and mostly do art shows. We're missing our art shows, but yeah, that's how we evolved.
Aryn and I have always worked real well together. We've always done better when together, and we're just have been that way. And so it was an easy, when we used to work out different places, it was an easy transition into in 06 into this. It was a real natural kind of flow into what we do now for a living. So.
Oh, yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that background. I'm interested a little bit in the interest in woodwork. I know that you mentioned a few times that it's always, been something you're interested in. Could you talk a little bit about that passion a little bit?
Yeah, I guess for me, if as I look back, I think it was one area in my schooling life, like even all the way back to high school, where I excelled, and other areas of school were a bit of a challenge. There's probably some self-application issues there as well, but I just always found that it worked for me, and it was something I enjoyed, and the processing of material, and what can this be, what can I get out of this piece of whatever it is, a stick, or a cutoff, or something with some sort of weird defect in it. Well, what can I get out of it is always, I don't know, that's always been intriguing to me ever since I was a little kid. Like just I've always had a little bit of a infatuation with not garbage isn't the right word, but putting things to use, yeah. Like things that are discarded by the regular or the normal world. What can I get out of it? This still has a use. is I guess what I'm trying to bumble through here, but that part of it, and then as I look back, I think it had to do with more kind of found what I was good at. When one of those deals where you're like, man, I think I'm actually good at this. And that was rewarded, I guess, for me through childhood or through young adulthood and so forth.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It is something to be able to see use in things that people would see as, unuseful, and trying to
Yeah,
come up with a new way of using that. And I'm looking forward to people seeing your work, also to see some of how you've used pieces and put them together. People can purchase work on your website at longshadowwoodworks.com. They can go there and choose pieces. Your website is really easy to navigate around. It's a great place to find your work. I know you're also on Facebook. You keep it really easy for us. It's just Longshadow Woodworks on that too, which is really good. And then on Instagram too. So people can go there and check out your work and purchase work also. So when people are seeing your pieces, I know that a lot of places, people can pick them up and hold them and interact with them. What is the one thing you really want people to take away from an experience with one of your pieces?
That it's meant to be used. Everything that we make is meant to be used and enjoyed. And we hear a lot of comments when people first see our work. Oh, they're all so pretty. They're too pretty to be used. But things that are pretty are meant to be used. They're meant to be held and enjoyed. And people always get worried about putting cut marks on a wood board, but cut marks add character. And some of the coolest pictures that former customers send us are pictures of like a little charcuterie that they put together and send us a pic. And it's like, oh, cool, our board is still holding up and someone is still loving it and thinking about us once in a while.
Yeah.
And maybe a nice art show on a nice warm summer day.
Yeah, and enjoy and adding value and enjoyment to just our regular everyday things. It's life's hard for everybody. And you go through and you're making your toast in the morning and you look down and this beautiful board you're buttering your toast on, and that might bring a little joy to somebody. And the use of our work, really, we get jazzed about that.
That's what I was gonna say. And this is I have a beautiful clipboard of your piece, and there, and I was gonna say that even when I sit down to do work with it, there's something
Yeah,
about having that piece with it that I actually kind of like set myself up, and it's a little more of a pleasant experience than just any old clipboard. It's like it's got this beautiful wood to it, and it's got a nice weight to it, and it really does add to the experience. So even I like having cheese and crackers, that would be great. But there's something even in that
yeah.
clipboard that, like what you're
Right.
talking about, that the use of a piece and the kind of joy it brings, just in everyday type experiences. So I
Yeah.
I definitely have felt that many times.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
cool.
So let's start looking at some of your pieces here. Let's look at your studio, your shop. Share with us a little bit about that.
Well, that's where it all happens. It's a pretty basic shop. It's set up for Aryn and I to work to do our specific tasks that we do and our tasks we do together. So the flow in that shop is dedicated to um, to kind of to one thing, and that's for our work. Now it isn't. We take custom job. We don't do a lot of this and that. We stick to what we make, and so the shop is kind of set up with that in mind.
And so in that picture behind where I'm standing, you can see a rack full of various lengths and cuts of wood. And so the wood that we use is all waste from bigger wood product manufacturers. Basically, we're using rippings and cut off pieces that they normally would just chip or burn or throw away. So that rack there, and then we've got a shed full of backup rips, all of our extra material back there. I'll stand at that cutoff saw and cut all the pieces to length. And then the table saw, which is kind of in the center of the shop, is where Courtney does all the ripping. I lay the pieces up the way that I kind of want them to look. And then I don't think we have a picture, but we've got a whole entire wall of that shop is all pipe clamps. And so we sit down and glue and clamp and let everything sit on clamps till it's cured. Then we plane and sand and shape and sand and sand and do our mineral oil finish work in that shop as well. Anything that I have to put a polyurethane coat over, we take down into our basement kind of finishing area. That's a wide view of the shop with our dog Murray. He's our shop dog. We had a good friend of ours, Kathy Towley, came out this spring. This is also another nice thing that we had time to do, is to take some pictures of ourselves and of the shop, because we hadn't done that in probably 10 plus years.
Long time, yeah.
And that's Murray, and that's his spot. When we are working in the shop, he will crawl right under the table saw table and wait until we shut down and take a break, and then he'll come and sit on somebody's foot.
Yeah, he likes that spot. It's his spot.
I love that. I love that. That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing your space with us. It's always nice to see the behind the scenes a little bit. A lot of times we only get to see the beautiful end product, but the amount of work that goes into one of your pieces is really valuable for us to see, and the dog just adds another layer of awesome to it.
Yeah.
The problem, he gets dusty and then he wants to come in the house.
Right.
So we're always vacuuming.
We'll be just working away out there, making noise, making dust, and going on, and he just, that outfeed table is just high enough where he can kind of scoot under there, and he'll be there the majority of the day.
All day. Yeah.
That's he's always been like that. That's just been his spot, I guess.
That is great. So we have something we would have seen on the street of Millstream.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, there's our booth.
That's our full booth display setup.
I know at Millstream we really appreciate the quality you bring in your setup also. That is a lot to do with what the jury looks at too, is the quality and care that goes into a space. And you can definitely see that in your picture here, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are your little bar boards.
These I call bar boards. And these, along with, I think there's going to be a picture of toothpick holders or pen cups coming up. These came out of my need, because I probably had that before you, but you have that need too, to use all of our own waste pieces that we make.
Yeah.
So I had a piece that didn't quite work out right, and it had a defect in it, and out of that piece that didn't work out right, there was enough material for me to design these little bar boards, and they've been really popular with their little offset handle. They're, again, a mix of all of our reclaimed native hardwood species that we use, a lot of cherry, maple, black walnut, white oak, a little hickory once in a while. Birch. Yep, we've got some mahogany, which isn't a native, but it's real red, pretty wood, and we'll put anything to use.
Yeah. Anything we come across that's, viable.
And these are our snack boards. Actually, a friend of ours, Sarah Lenz, she told us that we needed to start making these. And they are one of the most popular things that we make. We make them in matching sets of 4, but it's fun to have a little set that's, kind of different. Or just one for yourself. They're planed really thin, so you can kind of use it as a individual plate for, like I say, your cheese and crackers, or just to cut up a little apple. You don't always need a big, huge cutting board in the kitchen. So those are one of our, we call them smalls, one of our smaller boards that are handy.
Well, I know right now I'm filling up my cart online in my head right now. I'm just looking, and I'm looking at my husband next to me, and he's nodding his head. So we're I know just what we need. That's what we need. I think here's the pencil case you were talking, cups you were talking.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can explain those. Those were your idea.
Yeah, that was kind of a, well, there's kind of a long, kind of nutshell. We were making these pieces that produced a certain waste piece, void we had to cut out that was too good to just throw in the wood stove. So we stacked them, we boxed them up. We had a whole ton of these, and we just set them aside. And I just kept thinking about it, and so came up with this idea to laminate things up in height in kind of a crisscross way, and then make the toothpick holders as well, and the pen. Okay, that's just the pen cups, but making a round, cylindrical piece without a lathe was the kind of the thought I was chewing on, and I came up with this. So those are made with a disc sander, a Forstner bit, which is a big wide drill bit that drills a flat bottom hole, and a bandsaw. So that's cut out rough on a bandsaw. We drill the inside, and that creates the cup. And so it's a way of using those waste pieces again, and then making something round that's not made on a lathe, which is kind of neat. I thought that was kind of neat.
Different dimension for our work.
Different dimension for, yeah,
pretty
absolutely.
much everything else that we made before is flat.
Yeah, right,
so
right.
It was cool to make something a little more three-dimensional.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are fun. We've been really enjoying making those, and the reaction. People seem to dig them, so are attracted to them. You can see people are like, man, that's neat. So
they're fun to hold in your hand. And
it's a neat story, because it's not, every time you see something round that's made of wood, you immediately think, oh, this must have been made on a lathe. So I thought that was neat.
That is very neat. That is neat. It's had these everyday item objects that are made beautiful and so versatile too, which is wonderful. Yes, the three dimensions are great with that.
Yeah.
And that's pizza peel. That's one of the most popular things I think that we make.
Yes.
And it was funny. When we first started out, it was only about a 12-inch wide peel.
Yep.
But listening to people, they wanted it wider, so that's a 14-inch peel, which I think we've had one order for a 19-inch wide peel. But
yeah, I think it was something like that.
Most people like a 14-inch peel. Again, it's the reclaimed hardwoods with a planed thinner to make it lighter weight, and a beveled edge to make it easy to slide up under your pizza and carry it to the table, cut right on it. And mine hangs on the wall in the kitchen when I'm not using it, because it looks nice.
Yeah. It gets used a lot.
And it gets used a lot, yeah. We're a fan of the pizza.
Yeah, with a lot of pizza, yeah.
I was going to say it's a piece of artwork. It can be hung on the wall, for sure.
That's right.
That's right.
Yep. Functional artwork.
I'm wondering if I think I need to hit this button.
Yeah, are we goofed up here? There we go.
Do we still have you?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is an artist palette cutting board. That was just, actually, we have an artist, a painter friend of ours who we made him really thin palettes for him to use for that purpose. And then we got the idea, oh, this would make a neat cutting board. So cutting board shape, and so that was kind of the genesis of that one.
And I have to say, I think we sell an awful lot of those at art shows to other artists.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they like having a artist palette cutting
yeah,
board to entertain.
yeah,
So they're fun.
yeah.
It's
Those
fun
are
to
cool.
have different shapes. It's also fun to have like little kids come up and pick it up and try to figure
Yeah,
out,
and they're like
you know,
using it
how would
as,
you hold this if it
yeah,
was a
Bob
real.
Ross style.
Absolutely, it is a great shape.
That is our cut and serve tray. That one in particular is really pretty. It's got bird's eye maple in the center, which we do not come by very often. Cherry on the sides and black walnut doweled handles. All of the serving trays that we make, we put little kitchen grade rubber feet on those with stainless steel screws. Kind of keeps it up off the counter a little bit, gives it a little bit of a presence. And they are meant to be used and displayed, used for cutting and serving both.
I love that piece. That is a piece that I've seen on your website and different places that always catches my eye. It's the beautiful lines and the different woods. It's absolutely beautiful, stunning piece.
Thank you.
And that I call a random end grain block. A lot of times, if you see somebody that makes end grain blocks, they're laid up to be real symmetrical and have a pattern that carries through. And we did that for a while, but then we had this idea to just kind of go with the flow and make it random, and we've been doing that ever since. And they've really responded to that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
End grain, basically the wood is standing on end as opposed to laying on its side or its face. So when you use a end grain block as a cutting board, you're essentially cutting between the grain of the wood rather than across. You also get to see the grain on end. And so I like to select pieces, especially cherry, that has both like heart and sapwood in it. Kind of gives it a kaleidoscope almost look to it. I look for walnut that has heart and sapwood. Heartwood is the darker wood, and sapwood is the lighter wood. And usually the material that we get that has that sappy wood has been discarded because the sap is not what the characteristic of the wood that the woodworker is going for. You're looking for color, but it's cool when you see, really you can kind of see the tree itself, where the heartwood and the sapwood meet. And there's nothing wrong with sapwood. It's
just a color.
Just a color difference, but to me it makes an end grain block look really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I kind of save those pieces aside that have real good heart and sapwood together. Especially cherry. And
it's a drastic color, that red cherry. The sapwood on cherry is almost white, like maple.
And once in a while,
so it's a real neat.
In maple, you can find like blue stain that'll give it kind of a neat characteristic when it's
or that greenish, heart, or around a defect, or that greenish that happens in maple is neat too. If it's sound.
And an end grain block is the best thing as far as your knife goes. People that have real fancy high end like Japanese knives will only exclusively cut on end grain blocks. We've had many customers that were really excited to find an end grain block for their husband that wouldn't use his fancy knife.
or I just purchased a set of really nice knives.
Right.
Needed to complete that purchase really with a really nice cutting end grain cutting board.
So it's fun to also feel like you're providing people with something that they need and that they're super excited for too.
All your old but that classic picture in your mind of a meat cleaver hitting a butcher's block, those were all solid maple end grain. Those low, they were really super thick. That 4 foot square, maybe, real stout, 4 stout legs. That was those were always end grain. It just holds up the best. It's just super durable, and as long as being really, really pretty.
And they look cool, yeah.
I agree. It looks like brush strokes almost. The way the grain is. It kind of looks like a brush stroke across it. I learned a lot from that discussion. Let me tell you, I did not know. I'm not the cook of the house either, so I don't know much about that. But I know our cutting boards make my spouse crazy, so I think we need some end block cutting
I will
board.
be shopping later
He
today.
said he will be shopping later today. So he said.
All
So, and
right.
I'm sure others out there, after hearing about your work and about your pieces, will be going to longshadowwoodworks.com and picking up their pieces and finding ones that would really support them in the kitchen, or just, everyday items like my clipboard I have, just to bring beauty to those tasks we don't like sometimes. And mine is grading, so I really appreciate having that clipboard. Do you have
Certainly.
any dream projects on the horizon?
Let's see. We have. Well, you can talk about that material.
Well,
Yeah,
we
yeah, that.
due to COVID and all
Yeah.
of our art share shows being canceled, we had time to actually go through and clean the shop. We also had time to move a pile of lumber that was collecting dust since we moved here over 10 years ago, and go through that pile and see what we actually have. And it's material that we've gotten from all over.
Yeah, it's
But
that. Oh, I can use that pile.
Yeah.
It's got. I'll keep that because we can use that.
And it's all real thick material.
Yeah,
Some
real
of it is old
oddball stuff.
timbers from an old building. Some of it is rough sawn, like super thick cherry.
Yeah, a lot of
And
character.
so I'm excited this winter, especially now that the shop is clean.
Yeah.
We got all the dust out of there. I'm excited to spend some time just getting those pieces out and figuring out how to turn them into things. And we've got some furniture ideas.
Yeah, there's
And
a table. There's a table in there.
There's more than one table.
There's more than
I
one
think.
table in there, but there's a table idea in there, and then the other thing I guess what I would say is our coffee table for ourselves.
We've
that
always- yes.
we have
Yeah.
a coffee table design worked up, and now it's a matter of doing it, having the time to do it.
Because one of the most amazing things that Courtney ever came up with as an idea for reclaiming material was to pull nails out of pallets. And pallets are really nasty.
Yeah,
And
pallets.
so are the nails, because they're kind
They're
of spirally. You
Like
had to get a fancy tool to pull them out,
Yeah.
and it was all just arduous hand labor. And at one point, we hired one of my cousin's kids to come over and
right.
pull nails.
Right. That was a good job
but-
for it was a good kid job. That most of them kind of wore out though, to
But
be honest.
pallet material is beautiful.
It is.
If you can get it to
Behave.
behave.
Yes.
We made, I don't know how many benches we made.
Yeah, cherry,
walnut,
white, red oak, ash, birch, hickory, hackberry, maple, all those species I've found in pallets.
And so we have some pallet material out there that is going to be a coffee table for us.
Right.
Because we've sold every other pallet piece we made, and we need to have one for us.
Yeah, they're yeah.
I'm just
pretty neat.
afraid that when we finish it, Courtney's going to want to sell it at a show.
Everything's for sale, you know what I mean?
That's great. I've heard that from a lot of artists through the interviews. Is I had time to clean up my studio, or I had time to sort through this, and now they have a different kind of idea, or it's something came out of that time that they've had.
Yeah.
I've heard from a lot of artists with that. So definitely, I just want to remind people again, before we buy out all their supply, you gotta go to longshadowwoodworks.com and pick up pieces that you would like from Courtney and Aryn Kern. And you can also see their work on Facebook and Instagram. You just Longshadow Woodworks. Just you Google it; it'll come up in all kinds of places. So thank you for being with us. Is there anything you want to share before we leave today?
Our appreciation.
We really appreciate you doing
appreciate
this. we miss seeing everybody out on the streets in St. Joe. I think, well, it was always a running joke because we were always in front of the local blend, and the nuns would be there with the goodies and the coffee in the morning, and we would always talk about how they ordered the good weather because it was always usually good weather for Millstream Art Fair. So we miss that.
We do. We miss that a lot. But we appreciate these efforts, and
we're all coming up with
going forward. We got to keep
new
going.
ways of doing things, and we appreciate you doing this for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a part of it. It's always a pleasure to visit with the two of you and see your work and have you share your story and your with our viewers today. And hopefully next year we'll be on the street and the nuns will be right there serving the muffins and praying for good weather.
Praying for good weather.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.